Okay, so in Revit, at this point, your next step is going to be for creating custom wall types. You'll need to create a custom wall type for as many different exterior wall types that you have, and obviously for the different interior wall types that you may have for your particular dream house design. Um, right now, you can see on my screen that I have my elevation, east elevation, with a bunch of levels that have been set up here. So let me switch over to this one before, because I have some walls and stuff set up. So in these basic levels right now, what I want to do is I want to go to the next step and I want to start creating some walls. For me, the first walls that you should be drawing in terms of your floor plans will be your main floor design, because your foundation is based on the overall footprint of your main floor, because the main floor is supported by the foundation walls. So whatever your main floor footprint is will become the footprint for your basement walls. And obviously that your second floor may completely or partially cover your main floor. So that main floor plan that you've developed for your dream house becomes your starting point, and then your second floor and your main or your basement levels can be then overlaid and worked on once that main floor is all designed out. So what I want to do is I have a top of, so you see how on the project browser over on the left, you have structural plans, floor plans, ceiling plans. I would recommend that you hit the little negative sign here beside ceiling plans and close that down. The only ones that you want to have open will be floor plans and elevations. What happens sometimes with ceiling plans, you'll notice that ceiling plans also have grade, top of bait, all these same levels. Well, ceiling plans are for creating actual ceiling plans. So if you want to do like ceiling tiles and electrical, like lighting and stuff, you would use the ceiling plan levels for that. But we're just dealing with floor plans. So always make sure you just minimize that so you're not seeing it, so you're not accidentally drawing on the ceiling plan level rather than the actual floor plan level. Then I'm going to go to my top of main floor, because that's the level by which I would start drawing my walls for this particular floor, right? And these walls would then go from my top of main floor level and they would extend up to my top of main floor walls level. You'll see here in the properties end of things, I have all kinds of information here. Okay, and like I said, you've got extents, you have underlay. So again, you have view ranges, all kinds of stuff in here. It's not showing me any details yet with respect to walls, because I haven't started drawing anything yet. Okay, so I'm going to go up to the wall tool under the architecture tab. I'm going to click on the wall tool, and now you'll see that my properties tab has now moved over to allow me to start picking. So my base constraint is top of main floor, right? My top constraint right now is unconnected, and it has an unconnected length of 20 feet. So if I were just to draw a wall right now on here, it's going to draw a wall starting from the top of my main floor level, but it's unconnected, so it doesn't know where it's supposed to stop. So the program defaults to 20 feet. That's where I have to go to the top constraint and change this to say top of main walls. And now you'll see that I have a length of 9 feet, because that is the height of the main floor walls that I have determined I want for my main floor. So when I now generate walls in Revit, it will create those walls in 3 dimensions between my top of main floor level and my top of main walls. Okay? Now, whenever you're drawing your plan, you want to make sure again that you're drawing it in between these view indicators. Never eat shredded wheat, north, east, south, west. So as you draw, if I drew part of my walls outside of these view indicators, then when I generate my elevations, I would be missing part of my elevation because it's not within the view range. So you want to, when you're drawing your lines, kind of keep things to the middle of this area as you're drawing your walls. Now you'll notice under the properties, after I've set up where my base constraint is and where my top constraint is, you'll notice that I have a drop down here with different wall types. So right now it defaults to basic wall. So if I were to draw this wall right now, it would draw me an 8-inch thick wall with no properties, no materials, nothing associated with it, just a basic wall. So if I went to render this thing, I would get nothing out of the rendering because it has no particular properties to it. If I go to the drop down, you'll notice that there's a bunch of walls that are already in here as options, including curtain walls, which is all glass walls. So if you go to like a major store that has, if you like a wall's all glass, like a grocery store, and it's got all like metal, they call them mullions, like structural components, but it's all glass. That's what a curtain wall is. So if you want to get into something like that for your project, then that's the type of wall you'd be dealing with. But for general walls, we have basic walls. They have exterior, they have foundation, they have generics, and they have interior wall partitions. So these have all been just set up with various properties that the people of Revit, when they program this, they set these up this way. The idea is that you find an exterior wall type or an interior wall type that best represents what it is you're trying to achieve in your own wall design. Because then it's going to have a bunch of layers already set up with all materials and things already set up that you just have to kind of go in and modify either the sizes or the material itself in the program. Okay? So if I wanted to do a stone house, for instance, a stone wall, then I'm going to be looking for something in my basic wall that has exterior brick. Now there's nothing in here that says stone, right? So I want to find something. Brick, stone, in terms of construction, are the same. The way you have the brick, you have the airspace, you have all the dynamics of that system. But if I want it stone, I'm going to have to change properties within it in order to get the look that I want. So this says exterior brick and CMU on metal stud. So this is basically brick with concrete masonry units, so concrete block like this building. So this would be the outside brick with these concrete blocks on the inside, but then metal stud. So this inside wall would have metal stud on it and probably drywall to finish it. But that becomes a really big wall system. Then you have brick on CMU. This building that we're in, what you're looking at this in this room, that's that situation. Brick on the outside with concrete block painted on the inside. Then you have brick on metal stud. So this one for me in traditional construction is the one that's closest to what you'd be doing. We wouldn't be doing metal studs, we'd be doing wood studs. But this is the particular template that I want to start with to create my custom wall type for a stone wall. So if I click on this one and I hit the edit type that's below, it'll bring up this property end of things for the wall. I can do a preview, so there's a little preview button here. And it shows the layers of the wall. It's done basically a section through my wall and it's showing, just like we learned last year with a typical masonry wall where we talked about from the outside to the inside. Okay, this is showing your brick, your airspace, your sheathing, your weather barrier, your stud, your vapor barrier, and your drywall on the inside through this way. Okay, now I don't want to make any modifications to this until I want to make this a stone wall. Okay, so right now, if I make any changes to this and the properties of this, it'll apply it to the brick on metal stud library that's already embedded in Revit. First step you want to do when you find the wall type you want to start editing to create your custom wall type is to hit the duplicate button right here. And you're going to duplicate and you're going to go exterior and you name it whatever you want. In my case, it's stone. Hit OK. You'll notice now under the type, it changes to exterior stone. Now I'm ready to start making modifications because I've now created or started to create my custom wall type. If I go to structure, okay, and I hit this edit button. So right now it tells me that the width of my wall is 1'1" and 7/8 thick. So this wall is like over a foot thick based on whatever Revit has in here for air spaces and for brick and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go to the edit button. Now I have a different interface here that actually lists the components of my wall. You'll notice it says exterior side. And again, there's no surprise that when I talked about this terminology last year, talking about the exterior side to the interior side, there was a method in my madness. So we have exterior side. We have two grayed out lines that say core boundary, layers above, and core boundary, layers below. The core boundary, the structural item in the middle, that is your wood studs. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to go through and I want to modify this to suit what I want to create. So I can start with my finish layer. Right now it says brick common. Well, I want this to be stone. So if I click on where it says material brick common, you'll notice I get a little box. It has like 3 or 4 dots. My eyes aren't the greatest, but there's a little box that pops up when I click on that box. If I click on it, it'll bring up another dialog box that I can kind of expand out. Okay. Right now it's set at brick pattern. What I want to do is I want to use stone. So under this materials list, if I go down and I look for stone, or if I start to type in stone, I don't see stone anywhere. So what I have to do is I have to create my own stone material in the program. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go to where it says, again, I can go to where it says brick common. If I right click on brick common and duplicate, just like I duplicated when I was starting my wall type, and I'm just going to call this stone. Getting all caps is on here. So I've created a stone layer now, right? What I want to do now is I want to actually create this so it looks like stone. So if I go to appearance, this tells me right now what that will look like when it's rendered. And right now, it is still brick. Down here, you'll notice a little icon that kind of looks like a file folder somewhat that says open, closes asset browser. So if while I'm in my stone, if I click on the open, close asset browser, now what I can do is I can put a search in for stone. And you'll have Autodesk and appearance. So if I go to appearance and go to stone, you'll notice I have a bunch of different stone options here, right? So I've got the river stone blue. So if I double click on that, that is what it looks like in terms of rendered appearance. And what I want to do is I want to find something for me, like there's a field stone. So again, you can try different. I can go to masonry tab, and I can try all these different looks, appearance, masonry. Split face, there's all kinds of different things here. But generally, if you're looking for a stone, you go to the stone tab. And again, I have field stone. So I've decided there's the rough granite. That's the look I want. Okay. Once I've selected that, you'll notice now that my little image over here has changed to the icon of the stone material that I want. When I go back to my graphics tab, I can say use rendered appearance, because now it'll adopt to the color you want. And I can change that particular color too if I want. But right now we've picked that particular stone look. That's what it looks like. And now I've created the stone. I hit OK. You'll notice that the preview now has changed to stone. My material in the material list is now my stone material that I've created. And the thickness, in most cases, guys, the thickness of your stone material or brick will be 3 inches. So I'm going to change this to 3 inches. The next one down the list is my airspace. We learned last year that the airspace is 1 inch. 1 inch. In this particular case, they have it as 3 inches. So I'll just simply modify to 1 inch. The next layer, which is the weather barrier, okay, so you've got a membrane layer, air infiltration. This is our weather barrier. We're going to leave it at 0 because it's paper thin. So we really can't give it a true dimension, although it does have a dimension to it. It's not enough that it affects the actual thickness of the wall system. So we leave that air infiltration layer in at 0. Then we have our substrate or our plywood sheathing, right? So right now the material is set at plywood sheathing. This is your dream house. We talked about 7/16 aspenite as a finished material. But you know what? If I'm building a dream house, I'm probably going to go to a 1/2 inch plywood for the outside of my house for the sheathing. So again, right now it's set at 3/4. I'm going to change this to a 1/2. Now I have my structure, metal stud. Well, I've talked about we're going to be using lumber. So if I click on where it says metal stud and I hit the dots here, I'm going to look for something that says something to do with lumber, and there's one that's called softwood. Softwood lumber. So that's what I'm going to pick as my material. I'm going to use the rendered appearance, hit OK. And then we know that our 2x6 walls, they're not actually 6 inches thick. A 2x6 in width is 5 1/2, a 1/2 inch difference. So if I go with my 5 1/2, when you enter the numbers, you do the 5 space and then the 1/2 like I've shown it there. That becomes my core boundary or my structure, so my wall studs. On the inside now, so in between, obviously we insulate. The insulation, because it doesn't add to the thickness of the wall type, it's not something that we show on the actual creation of a custom wall type. But the next thing that we do is we cover our insulation, thermal insulation, with polyethylene vapor barrier. And because again, it's paper thin, 6 mil, again, it's membrane layer, vapor retarder, and it is 0. And the last finish we have is our interior finish. And again, in most cases, it's drywall, gypsum wall board. And in this case, thickness 1/2 inch. So that works because most of our interior walls are finished with 1/2 inch drywall. I've now created my custom wall type for an exterior wall with stone. If I go to the wall board here, my drywall, gypsum wall board, if for whatever reason you wanted to have a different color or something with this wall, then you would change the properties and the colors of this particular wall. And I'll do that at another time. I'm just right now, I think with the, oh, there it is. Okay, I'll show you now then. Every time they upgrade the software, there's little differences in the way things are done. So if I have a gypsum wall board, so say I want a room or a specific room to have a different paint color in that room than other areas of the house. So say this part of the wall I'm drawing, the exterior wall, this part of the exterior wall is part of my master bedroom on the main floor. So I wouldn't make the change to the gypsum wall board that's already in the program, because that means every time I choose gypsum wall board as a material, whatever modifications or colors I add to it, it'll apply to every single gypsum wall board piece that I do. So if I right click again, duplicate, and I could say drywall master bedroom, okay? Then what I can do is go down to where it says tint and put a check mark on it, and then click on where it says tint color. And if I wanted like some sort of light yellow, creamy color, I pick whatever color I want until it shows up where it says new. Hit OK. Now you'll see my little cube here changes to that color. And if I go back to my graphics, so really you're bouncing between graphics, okay? Graphics will show, like if this was an actual elevation that we're looking at before it has been rendered, it shows kind of this sand look, like a texture of drywall. But the appearance, we want to use our rendered appearance. So it'll adopt the color that you selected, right here. The RGB 228, 228, 228, right? 228, 228, 228. Hit apply, okay. And now you'll even see that layer of drywall gets that color to it. So inside, outside, anywhere you want to do, you want to make a change, right? You'll notice now that my finish on this particular wall type, exterior stone, I may have to go as far as changing the actual name of the type from exterior stone to exterior stone master bedroom. Because you can imagine that in some cases, maybe like this exterior wall for my master bedroom only touches 2 walls of my master bedroom on the inside. And then that wall continues along, and then it, part of it's closet, part of it's like the great room, part of it. So depending on how carried away you want to get with this, you could be essentially creating a whole bunch of wall types. I would say at this point, like pick like a color. I'd like to see a color or something added custom to like an interior wall, but I wouldn't go crazy like this. I would just say, you know what? My entire main floor is going to be this light yellow color. And then every time you draw an exterior wall on your main floor, the drywall on the inside will have this light yellow to it. Because I just don't think with the time we have left in the semester that, again, you're going to have time to necessarily do that. Okay? And again, if I go back to my stone and I go to make a modification on this, again, if I go to see, this used to, and maybe it doesn't allow it on some stones that you pick, but sometimes they allow you to actually add a tint to the stone. It works better like if you pick like a siding, for instance, and it's just a white horizontal siding, and you want your siding to be like a dark green or a dark blue or whatever it may be. Again, it's the same method, but on this particular option for stone, I don't have the option of changing the color. The color is what it is. I can't change the tint on that because it's not giving me an option here. But again, if I went back to my asset browser and I typed in stone, so maybe I decide, you know what, I want the small uneven stone look, which is this look. So now see how I have a tint option for this particular option? So if I tinted it, then again, I can, if I want it to be more of a gray, like that, and then I apply it and hit OK. So my stone has now adapted to the new custom level layer that I've set up here. And that's how you create a custom wall type. At the end of the day now, every type of custom wall that I create, the method is the same. The method of picking materials, the method of tinting things and picking custom colors for what you want to do, it's all the same. So every wall you want to do, so if I hit OK now, and hit OK, you'll notice now that my width of my wall has changed to 10.5 inches. So that is the overall thickness of my wall system based on the criteria that I plugged in for all my sizes. So when I look and I evaluate your custom wall types, I open up all your individual custom wall types, and I look at all the properties you've selected, and I've made sure that you've made changes and customizations, because that's the point of this, right? Like, I don't want you using the standard brick on metal stud and start drawing brick walls and not bothering to change from red brick to something that actually looks nice. or not bothering to change a 3-inch airspace to what it actually is, which is 1 inch, right? I don't even know where Autodesk came up with that 3-inch airspace, because I've never seen a 3-inch airspace in my life of building anything from commercial high-rise construction to low-rise residential, okay? So I'll be looking at your individual work, and again, this will be, I'm going to say, okay, guys, send me your Revit file with all of your custom wall types done, and then I'm going to review those and make sure that you've made changes to the sizing and to the materials and so on and so forth. So once I go okay, you'll notice now as a wall that I have available to me to start drawing is my stone wall. So if I start drawing the exterior walls of my house, right? When I draw a wall like that, you'll notice how the numbers are coming up. Well, you can set, and I'll get that to another lesson once you have your custom walls set up on how to actually draw walls properly. But if I go up here to this little house icon, I can generate my 3D view of my walls that I just drew. And those are 9-foot high walls. And I drew them on the top of my main floor and told it to go to the top of my main walls. And down here, I have options of changing my detail level to fine. I also have my option to go to realistic. So now I zoom in, I have my stone that I selected with that darker tint to it. And on the inside, I have my yellow walls on the inside. If I go to my top of main floor plan and I change my levels of detail, so I go to fine level and go to realistic, you'll notice as I zoom in, it shows the layers, the levels that I've got here. It shows my stone, it shows my airspace, right? And that's how you go about creating that custom wall. And again, if I'm on this level and I want to do a new wall, so when you're doing a foundation wall, for instance, so if I go here, you'll notice that there's a foundation 12-inch concrete. This is the easiest wall type to create custom for you, okay? I don't think anyone in here is going to have a wall that's 12 inches thick. I guess at the end of the day, it is possible, right? But generally, we talked about standard foundation walls being 8 inches. So if I click on foundation 12-inch concrete, I edit my type. I go to duplicate it. I change it from foundation concrete to, right? I'm going to say foundation 8-inch. Hit OK. I'm now working with my 8-inch foundation wall. I go to edit, and all I have to do is edit the thickness. And instead of having 1, I go to 0, and I change this to 8 inches. Hit OK. Hit OK. And now I have an 8-inch custom wall type for my foundation walls. And when I eventually draw those, I don't have the level set up on here yet, but I would draw that foundation wall on, the level I'd be drawing on would be my top of footing level, and I would tell it to go to the top of my foundation wall level. And then it would generate those 8-inch foundation walls. So if I were to just draw there's my foundation wall right now, right? And again, I don't have the proper levels to tell it where to go, but that's how easy it is to create your custom wall type for your foundation wall. And the same goes for interior walls, right? If you go down, you'll see there's an interior, right? Partitions. We got 3 1/8, 4 7/8, 5 1/2, 5, right? Well, most interior walls, if you're using 1/2-inch drywall, is a 2x4 stud. So that's your core boundary, which is a 3 1/2-inch dimension. And then you have 1/2-inch drywall on both sides. So again, I take one of those interior walls. Usually I think the 4 7/8 option is there for interior. Edit the type, right? Duplicate, interior. You can say 2x4 with drywall. Hit OK. Edit it. And again, structure, metal stud layer. We're not using the metal stud. We're going to change this to, I can start typing it in up top too, softwood lumber. Hit OK. It's not 3 5/8, it's 3.5. And then gypsum wallboard, right? So again, in my case, I said drywall, main, right? Drywall, and okay. This one here. So because this is on my main floor, I want to have the same color on the main floor for the walls. So I go to whatever I set up, and I change this to 1/2 inch. That is what's typically used. Okay. Now I'll see that I have a width of an interior wall that's 4.5 inches. I've created one of my custom wall types. Same method, right? So if I go back to my top of main floor level and I start drawing a wall, and there's my interior 2x4 with drywall, and I draw my master bedroom in the corner. There's my master bedroom, right? And there's my interior wall with the color drywall that matches the rest of the interior color drywall for my exterior wall type. And that's really about it.